And we're live.
All right, welcome everyone. Today is July 14th. This is our meeting of our full council meeting. Would you please join with me as you're able to start the meeting as we usually do with pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Kudnoff will be taking our minutes this evening.
Thank you. Frednoff, would you do a roll call for us?
Mr. Betcher.
Here.
Ms. Cheney is absent. Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Mr. Knipp.
Here.
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
Mr. Van Harn.
Here.
Is there a motion to excuse Ms. Cheney?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And has everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda? And are there any amendments or do we have a motion to go ahead and accept it as is?
Motion to accept agenda. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. We have no one that is registered to speak as far as visitors. Is that correct?
It's correct.
All right. And so for the minutes to be approved, I did notice an error where it referred to Mr. Fisher as arriving at 6:35, and I believe that was 5:35 in the minutes for finance. I apologize. I'm on the wrong minutes here. The was it executive or was it finance?
Yes, finance.
Okay.
I'm not on finance.
So it would have been executive. Okay. I apologize, and I wasn't here at the beginning of executive with the minutes. Does anyone, sorry for the delay, does anyone have any amendments or additions to the minutes for our previous council meeting, which was 6:13? And if not, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And so Chief Denny Meter isn't here, but we do have the Deputy Fire Chief, Mr. Camp here. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to attend.
Yeah, I appreciate you here with the report.
Yes. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, Chief Meter is out of the office this week, asked me to attend. I'm one of the deputy chiefs. He just wanted to give a review of what's been going on this last month. Did all of you get a copy of the last month's run review of how many details and stuff? Okay, I want to make sure, I'm sure he shared it with you. I just want to make sure you had it. So what's been going on in the community? You've seen our apparatus and crews now doing, first they've been doing hydrant checks. Just, again, familiarize ourselves. We'll start up with a numbering program that we can keep records of so we know if there's any issues and that kind of stuff. So the crews have, when time permits, they've been out working on the hydrants and checking and clearing. And again, some of that is just awareness of where they are. They've also been doing some inspections and pre-plans for some of the smaller businesses. Some of the large ones are probably going to have some special times to meet with those vendors and get in and look around and see what's going on. Again, we've got some big businesses and we want to make sure we pre-plan those properly so we have an idea what we're up against, like in any business. We did have an incident on Stover back on July the 5th. Some of you may have been aware it was on the dead end, on the south end, I would say. Came in as a fireworks complaint, and then they upgraded to a structural response, but it was not a structure fire. It was a discarded couch on the side of the apartment building that a firework got into and then it lit up, and someone, I called it, so with, I think law enforcement was involved. We did some counseling, found out it was a child. We talked to them about how to care for that kind of stuff, and we also did a little PR work with them. So that's how that is. Of course, we participated in the 4th of July parade. We've done that for many years in cooperation with the Gulf Manor Fire Department, and we always have a good time there. And then the other day, last Thursday, we did a PR detail at Cincinnati Hebrew Day School and went over and spent a couple hours with the children and talked about safety talks and exit plans. And then they came out and played in the fire truck. And then, as I call it, water movement practice. We went in the back and hosed them down, and they had a shower at their request. Yeah, at their request. Yes. So they had a good time. So That's about all I have. Is there any questions? I may not have an answer for you, but I'll get one and get an answer to Mr. Hurd or the mayor.
Just want to reiterate on behalf of the council how pleased we are with the level of engagement that Deer Park.
As Peter's probably told you, we run a business, and that's what we do. And for those that are business people here, that you're our customers, and that's how we treat all of our customers. And are we perfect? No, but again, you need to know what's going on.
So Sergeant Reed was the individual responsible for getting the 4th of July parade together. And on Tuesday, after the 4th, he came up to me with a big grin, and he doesn't grin very often, and said what a wonderful thing it was that the chief of the fire district was driving the fire truck and the chief of the police department was leading the parade. And it's just, to me, it's a great show of cooperation within our village. And
Okay,
we really
Chief
appreciate
is very involved in our department, and same with our past chief, Chief Newman, and the majority of the staff are. Like I said, again, we're like a business, but it's also a fun business. I mean, we had a great time the other day. I was part of the crew that went over and went to school the other day. Fun time with the kids, and the questions that you get, and then we try the helmets on and all that kind of stuff. But that's fun, and like I said, just like we just talked about before the meeting, just how we would like to be treated. Like you, again, we have an incident that's newsworthy. We're not going to call you 3 o'clock in the morning and tell you there was a car fire, but you would not want to know if there was something newsworthy. It's just a courtesy. So, and I'll pass the comments on. Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
The only challenge we'll have at the parade, the beginning of the parade, the chief contest, we had a little issue between the Xavier, what do they call it?
The mascot.
Bob,
Yeah.
Chief Meter is a big Xavier guy, and the UC, and they were, of course, we have, if you follow on our Facebook, both of them, when we took pictures on, but the chief for once went on to Xavier, the UC thing. So, yeah, it was good.
Thank you, Chief Camp.
I
Okay,
have
oh, what was?
a comment. When you guys are doing the hydrants, will that cause a pressure change in the village?
This year, we are not flowing the hydrants.
Okay.
We're not really sure how those were done in the past. We normally do that, or a section of them, but what happens is when you start to flow those, then that also increases we find a lot of problems, which also raises your repair cost. So at this point, we're checking them, we're greasing the fittings, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, that kind of, and we're also numbering them. So in our computer, when we get dispatched to the county and also on our active 911, it'll bring up a screen and it'll show us where all the hydrants and stuff are. So as the companies are coming in, because we have 15 full-time people, plus we have 40, 50 part-time people. So depending on who's driving, whatever, they can look and say, okay, we're coming down Stover, boom, here's the address we're dispatched to, there should be a fire. So we're doing that kind of tracking right now. But again, they'll work in conjunction with the administration on starting to do what we call flow. Because down here, you have quite a bit more pressure than we have in Silver and Deer Park. If I remember correctly, on some of the runs we did in the past, 100, 200 pounds PSI at the hydrant, where up in Deer Park and Silver, we're like 15, 16. So the issue is the pressure also damages the bladder and some of the other stuff in the hydrant. So we don't want to get off on the wrong foot.
So is it a separate system than the residential, or is it?
Oh, no,
Okay,
it's the same.
Because the reason I'm asking is we had in our Facebook group, we had some people complain or comment that they feel like their water pressure was down. And I was wondering, when you said it, I was like, oh, maybe they were putting the hydrants.
In the staff meeting that I was, the chief mentioned, we would not be flowing hydrants. Now, if you open one, it will drop a little bit, but you're right. I can't imagine you seeing a drop in the hydrant. The other thing that we do, what we'll do is when we start flowing those with your permission, other than fires, we'll also put together a little package and have a blurb on your Facebook or whatever, because it does stir up and sediment in the mains, and then some of the people will come home and find rusty water in their toilet sinks, or in their sinks, or in the toilet basins, and that type of stuff. And we also caution the people not to do laundry for a little while. And if they do that by mistake, there's a treatment that Waterworks gives out that will neutralize that and clean up the clothing and stuff like that. But,
What I commented was that sometimes the sediment will get in the aerators.
Oh, yes.
So people, I told people, check that first.
Again, again, if you do, watch the waterworks doing your replacement of the mains and stuff, look at what they're taking out, you know. And when you look at that water inside, you're like, I'm drinking that water.
Yeah.
But it's all fluoridated, or fluoridated, it's clean, but so we have not opened any hydrants on a regular basis, to answer your question, to get back to that.
Thank you, Chief Camp.
Okay.
Appreciate it very much.
Anything else, I'll hit.
If I make just one brief statement, I wanted to, as a consumer here lately, as most of you know, my mother lived with me for the past year and a half, and she's been a frequent customer of yours, and she passed away recently, and
What street did you?
Graceland.
Okay.
Graceland, and I want to say each time that I had to call, the response time was fantastic, the professionalism was fantastic. And just my comfort level, knowing that those crews knew what they were doing, it's just the sense of security that I felt when I had to follow him and go to the hospital. She was always in good shape when I got there, based on their treatment. So, great job, great response time, and I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it.
I will pass it on to the group. Yes, we appreciate that. And like I said, we're making a fair amount. I think we're up to 5 runs today here since 6 a.m. in Gulf Manor. It's been a busy day. I think they've had 13 already since 6 a.m. So some days are busy, and then there's the other, yesterday I think they had a total like 6. But you never know. You never know.
They're doing a great job, thanks.
Well, thank you. And again, we, as Mary indicated and our chief does, we stay engaged. So if there is a question, feel free to reach out to the administration. If it's something that, this week while the chief's out of town, you've got my cell phone number. So, and then I'll reach out to the full-time deputy chief and we'll get you an answer or whatever. Okay. Anybody else?
So this, just as a quick follow-up here, this is a kind of a finance thing, but since you're here, I'll mention this. One of the concerns we had in putting together our agreement with Deer Park Silverton was the funding, and Chief Meter has been very helpful in providing us EMS billing summaries. And one of the things that we were concerned about is they were unable to pinpoint exactly what the soft billables were for ambulance runs. So the goal that we have for this fiscal year is $60,000 in billables. So we don't have additional money coming out of the general fund. So this is for March, April, May, and June. We're already tracking at $28,116. So I think it's very likely that we will meet that $60,000 goal. That's huge, because that was something we were concerned about.
Mhm.
So just to mention that.
Yes.
Well, that's.
Thanks for the work.
Well, we're concerned about, again, we're on our business.
From a quick finance question, do you know the company that performs the billing?
I do.
Med-account.
Med-account.
It's the
Thank you very
same as,
much.
the same as what was previously. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't changed to my knowledge, at least in the last half meeting.
Okay.
We've been with them since day one of the fire district. And we're changing some software internally for billing as far as tracking. And like I said, some of that is when you get into the hospital sometimes, especially with HIPAA and all that, trying to get some of that stuff transferred out. So
So there was no change in the billing software. That's the same. It's just how they're reading the information and what's being reported. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, part of the issue was Little Miami collected everything together. Gulf Manor was not segregated out of there, so we made an estimate. It's a pretty good estimate, I think, at this point. So
Oh, each community, you're not the only one. The Silverton community has their questions about what's going on. I sit on Deer Park City Council, and we have fellow council members that have questioned, hey, how come we make more runs here? And since we're a district, sometimes that pops up about, well, are we paying our fair share or each one? But again, we are running the business, and you're more than welcome to ask any question at all. And I know my fellow council members do.
Thank you on behalf of the school and all the kids. We saw some videos and had a great time.
Oh, did he?
Yes, they
Well, I was
did.
supposed to get an email with some of this, who's the one that has the
Funny hat.
Well, I jokingly said he had a drinking problem because he had 2 Dr. Peppers on top of his head, you know, and his wife does something, I guess, the program.
They're both
Yeah, and there was one of them was gonna send me a link with some of the stuff, because I posted it on our Facebook.
He didn't send it to
He
you?
didn't send it to me yet.
I'll mention it.
Yeah, I gave. Oh, yeah, okay. Communities know what's going on.
No, they had a great time. Everybody was doing their bathing suits and themselves and the kids there.
Some of them came back for seconds, some of them, now the teachers and stuff are the guy, hey, you're supposed to get, no, I'm not getting wet, no. But yeah, that is fun, and get up and blow the horn and do that kind of stuff. So.
Great.
Thank you very much. You have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
All right, I want to say a few words to thank all those who helped out with our 4th of July celebration together. We had a fantastic parade led by the U.S. Navy Color Guards Chief Hubbard and our own Commander Tracy Masher. We had a number of assets on display in the parade thanks to Sergeant Reed's skills and coordination. We had Hamilton County Sheriff's Office there. We had the Hamilton County Dive Team, Hamilton County Park District, the Cincinnati Police SWAT Team, had the Amberley PD, had the UC and Xavier PD and mascots, as was mentioned, the State Highway Patrol and Millennium Towing, which provides the towing services for the village. We also had a big engine, as was mentioned, from Deer Park Silverton Fire Department, driven by Chief Denny Meter. So we want to thank him and every member of the team who participated, not just at the event, but every day throughout the year on call to keep our residents safe. And likewise to our very own Gulf Manor PD, led by Chief Campbell. I want to thank all the police officers for all they did and all they continue to do for our residents. There were a number of residents participating in the parade as well. It's always great to be able to offer that up to our residents. So thanks to all those who participated in the parade. The parade was followed by a picnic in the park with free food and beer. I want to thank our team that welcomed everyone in. They got the contact information of just about everyone in attendance, which helps greatly in getting the word out about future events. That team was made up of Susan and Nova Ramsey and Elaine Moskovitz. We had help with setup and decorations from Sherry and George Ranson and their son Zach, as well as our own Councilman Van Horn. And we want to thank Dana Morwessel and the kids that helped in the concession stand. I know Dana was training folks, including 2 of my kids, on how to use the cotton candy and the icy maker to serve folks. I know all the kids that were involved with that very much enjoyed it. And drum roll, please, about the free food. Yiddy Weispicker was stationed at the grill all day long. I want to thank him for that. The hot dogs and my understanding is the apple pie, not only being great, was, by my understanding, made by Councilman Fisher here. Is that correct? Lots of compliments on the apple pie. And
It's America, you gotta have apple pie.
that's right. And I want to thank him as well as thanks to Eric Reidenoff and Honorable Greg Schwartzberg, those 3 for helping make the food possible. Kosher and free, where else does that happen in Hamilton County? Or anywhere, as far as I know, on the 4th. And my greatest thanks for Councilmember Knepp. With less than 3 weeks' notice, I came to him and asked him to coordinate the July 4th activities, and it was a fantastic job. Well done. So thank you, sir. Did an awesome job. And at the 4th of July picnic, I said a few words about the unity in pursuit of freedom, which received lots of compliments, which I think was mainly because it was under 2 minutes. Which everyone I'm sure appreciated. But I was able to be so concise because we had just had what some call our second Independence Day celebration, Juneteenth Freedom Day, a couple weeks prior. This was our first ever Juneteenth celebration held in Gulf Manor and was a great success thanks to the residents that put it all together. Very proud of the work they did and that they afforded me the opportunity to speak there and read the Juneteenth Freedom Day proclamation I wrote, and here's that proclamation. Whereas citizens of the United States of America have strived to manifest the ideals upon which our nation is founded of equality and liberty and justice for all citizens. And whereas the struggle is fought in solidarity with all freedom-loving people who recognize that the manifestation of these ideals requires continual vigilance and commitment to the fight. And whereas the Emancipation Proclamation of January 1st, 1863 was declared in this battle, but could not be fully executed until the westernmost Confederate States of Texas was fully secured by the Union Army 2.5 years later in September of 1865 on the date of June 19th. And whereas this date further signified the final fall of obstacles to the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the United States 6 months later, which officially freed the remaining slaves in the state of Kentucky. And whereas June 19th was henceforth recognized as Juneteenth, our second Independence Day, celebrating the freedom for all people where there is equality and justice. And whereas the Village Council of Gulf Manor, in solidarity with the state of Ohio, has recognized by ordinance Juneteenth as an official holiday within the jurisdiction of Gulf Manor. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Densmore, the Village of Gulf Manor, affirm and proclaim Sunday, June 19th, 2022 is Juneteenth Day in the Village of Gulf Manor, Ohio. Furthermore, the village will celebrate the occasion on our first Juneteenth event by the residents on Friday, June 17th, 2022. I ask the community to join us in celebrating this date as another step forward in the village's solidarity in pursuit of the ideals upon which our nation was founded. So there's that.
A motion to affirm.
We have a motion to affirm.
Motion to affirm. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Who was the second?
David.
We had face painting. I know that Nova Ramsey was helping a lot with that, and lots of local vendors there. It was so much fun meeting each one and checking out their artwork. I was especially impressed with one artist. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Bakari Robinson. He's 17 years old, a talented artist going to school in France and doing internships and things in DC. Amazing. I got his contact information. I want to hang some of his artwork up in the municipal building. I was inspired thinking about all the local artists that we have in Gulf Manor. And if anyone's interested in working with me or working with others on figuring out some kind of a protocol or way to get the local artists to submit artwork that we can display in some fashion, figure out what the policy would be around that. I would really love to see that happen. We've got a lot of talent here, and
Maybe kick it off at the September 18th event.
so let me know if you're interested in pursuing that and are interested in putting in the legwork of making that happen. Thank you to Melody Mail, without which none of this would have happened. So thank you to her and her team, Antoinette Moore, Rob Wilkinson, Maxine Lewis Robinson, Ryan Sickles, as well as the support I'm told that came from Jacqueline Threadgill, Allison Ogilvy, and our own Councilwoman Snyder for that event. Also proud of the residents who showed up for the Pride Parade downtown on June 25th, sponsoring a float highlighting that our village was, what was it, the first in Hamilton? Is it first in Hamilton County?
First in Hamilton County, 28th in the state.
28th in state, first in Hamilton County, to include LGBTQ plus individuals as a protected class. They sponsored a float in the July 4th parade as well. So thank you to Steve Simile, Matt Betcher, our council member, Matt Betcher, Melody Mail, Councilwoman Ashley Snyder, Sandy Fogelson, Javon Van Hemert, and for all of that. Last year, there was the very first Pride picnic in Gulf Manor, and it was the first time that June was declared LGBTQ plus Pride Month in Gulf Manor. I'm proud to continue that tradition and declare June 2022 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month, and here is that proclamation. Whereas this month in 1969, a courageous group of citizens resisted harassment and mistreatment at the New York City Stonewall Inn. This resistance later to be called the Stonewall Uprising, of which many in the United States considered the birth of the modern gay and lesbian civil rights movement. And whereas many of those in the LGBTQ plus community, their families and friends celebrate the anniversary of this uprising every June in the U.S. as Pride Month. And whereas I am proud of the work our village council and residents have taken to combat discrimination and ensure that LGBTQ plus individuals have the same rights guaranteed to their fellow residents. And whereas I cast the deciding vote and signed our local non-discrimination ordinance to make Gulf Manor the first Hamilton County municipality to add LGBTQ plus individuals as a protected class, in which after referendum was overwhelmingly affirmed by the residents of Gulf Manor. And whereas we've come a long way on our journey toward tolerance, understanding, and mutual respect, but still have a long way to go in our efforts to end discrimination, as demonstrated by continual acts of violence towards the LGBTQ plus community across our country, striking at the heart of what it means to be an American. And whereas our greatest hope for a just society is to teach our children to respect one another, to appreciate our differences, and to recognize the fundamental values that we hold in common. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Densmore of the Village of Gulf Manor, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the village charter, laws of Ohio, and the United States, do hereby affirm and proclaim June 2022 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month, and encourage all residents of Gulf Manor to observe this with appropriate programs, ceremonies, activities that celebrate our diversity, and to remember throughout the year the many and varied contributions of LGBTQ plus Americans that have enriched our national life.
Motion to affirm.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I take that as unanimous. Thank you. And finally, tonight, I want to thank the maintenance staff and for all the hard work this past month making all these events possible. And I want to acknowledge especially the staff and administration here for their devotion to all residents as recognized by their anniversary dates and years of service to the village. I have one quick question to ask before I do this, because I didn't get this clarified ahead of time. Did he just start the second quarter?
He started in May.
Okay.
Yeah, the dates
So-
are,
Yeah, I got that. I was unclear on in terms of the anniversary. He does not have one. He doesn't have a year yet, or he does have a year?
he just
He
started.
just started. All right. So I want to welcome Eric Lett as one of our part-time maintenance folks who just started in May. I want to recognize David Spears, who's part-time patrol officer, whose anniversary date is May 1st, and Paula Gergen in our financial operations, whose anniversary date is May 3rd. We celebrate their 1-year anniversary with the village this second quarter. Want to identify Jason Kurth, who's our maintenance lead, one of our maintenance leads, with his anniversary on May 10th, represents 3 years with the village. Our village administrator, Ron Hirth, April 2nd, as we've mentioned before. This represents 4 years as staff with the village. And drum roll, please, for Andy McGinnis, our part-time maintenance individual, on April 19th, and Sergeant Reed with his May 4th anniversary. Each of these individuals have been serving us for 5 years. And on behalf of myself, council, administration, thank you for your devoted service to the residents of Gulf Manor. And I have a couple other things I want to make sure get said, but I think we will bring them up in the community engagement section of the meeting. So with that, I will ask Mr. Hirth for his report.
So I'm happy to announce that I never again have to say where we are in the Vera Road project. Vera Road project is complete, with the exception of the light poles. Those will be painted sometime within the next couple of weeks. But we're very happy to have that project over with. It's a good-looking street. I see people out utilizing the new sidewalk that was put in addition to the new ramp. So I think it was long, but it was well worth the effort. So I will be long gone by the time that street needs to be done again. So in the executive committee, I mentioned that the Elbrook Road construction bid process went through a couple of weeks ago. We received them, but we've yet to choose a vendor. Material availability and resulting delays have pushed the Greater Cincinnati Waterworks portion of the project into major timing delays that have negatively increased the cost of the project as much as $150 over planned budget. So the road engineer, Mr. Donald, and I will be meeting sometime this week or next week to talk about our approach to reach out to Greater Cincinnati Waterworks and try to alleviate some of that cost. We have a number of projects that have started. I asked Ms. Gideon, and Mr. Pritinoff will continue this process to project out our tax levy for roads and consider the commitments that we have already in loans and also what our potential new projects are. And we are on budget that if something would happen that when that levy is up for renewal, we would have sufficient funds to cover everything. So not that we are pushing the limit of the budget. I just think $150,000 is way too much for us to absorb, especially looking at some of the other projects we wanted to accomplish. So we'll keep you up to date. Hopefully by the next time we get to a council meeting, we'll have a contract authorizing Elbrook Avenue to be done, but it's possible we may just not do that this year. Unfortunately, same issues happening with Canterbury Englewood. And the good thing about Weehee is that they've already done the water work on Weehee. That was done 5 years ago. So that's simply a curb replacement and a surface replacement. So that project will move forward. That's coming out of SORTA funding in the 2022 round of grant. And that's probably not going to start until sometime October, November, sometime in that time period. Celebration 75, the committee still continues to meet. Now we're meeting every 2 weeks. The next meeting is we just did one this past Thursday. So the next one is next Thursday. You're all welcome to come, 9 o'clock in the morning. And what that board tells us, other than it's very small printing, the modules that we're planning would be an opening module at the beginning of the day, probably around 11:30, where there will be proclamations read from various entities, in addition to a dedication of the park, new playground equipment, and a rededication of the Liberty Tree by the Sons of the American Revolution. Then the picnic will start sometime after that. That'll be a free picnic to the community. We're talking about doing that as a kosher picnic again. Then we will move the equipment in for the safety day and for the vendor displays. Then the petting zoo takes place between 4 and 6. And then the food trucks come in. And the concert is from 6 to 8 with fireworks at 8 o'clock. So that's 7 modules that we're planning. The idea is to have the ability for people to drop in, drop out throughout the day, come at your leisure. 2 exciting projects that are coming out of this is a community art project. If you would, imagine the wall outside Chambers. Each of those squares represents a canvas. We're hoping to get about 30 of those that individuals would paint, decorate, whatever they want to do to create a collage on that wall. There are spots enough for 60. If we get 30, we'll be happy because we can do a decent presentation. We could do 20. We'll make whatever comes in work. But what's kind of neat about that, Casey Dressel from our We Thrive group, and I'm assuming Jacqueline's going to help with this too. They are going to lead the effort to build the canvases, to have them available, and then we'll have a place for people to come and paint. We'll have some kind of kickoff of this probably in mid-August. So come on down and get your canvas and start early. But I've always kind of thought it would be nice to have something on that wall. It won't be permanent. It'll be something that we can move around if we need to, or if we want to. But I think that's kind of a nice offshoot out of that. The other thing, see, I got so excited about that, I can't remember what the second thing was. I'll think of it. But that's kind of a cool thing that's happening with that. Economic development work on the 2 property acquisitions is ongoing. We believe we will close on those properties, I believe, after August 15th at this point. So we may need to talk to council about appropriations to make sure that we have the funding available. The county is going to reimburse us up front for their portion of it, so we won't have to come up with those dollars. And that's all being worked on behind the scenes now, as well as the environmental assessment. And Mr. Donald, did you have anything additional you wanted to add to that?
Then we're doing the asbestos analysis next, but probably closing in August. I think we said Wednesday, 17th.
Yeah, the Wednesday after the council meeting. So that's moving along. The strategic plan, not forgotten, just been on hold for a little while. The mayor and
Greg.
Can't think of his name. Greg Dale and I are meeting on July 20th to look at their first draft. At that time, he's also going to propose a format for the strategic plan. Once we've had the opportunity to give some input, we hope to bring that to council then at the August 15th meeting for you guys to react to. So you'll have the ability, I don't think we need to do another working session. We can contain that within the council meeting, but that's coming. And hopefully we'll have the strategic plan wrapped up by the beginning of the 4th quarter. So we'll have that done. Health insurance enrollment for 2023 is completed. Council will have this evening, as part of your legislation, to approve expenditure of funds for the United Healthcare Plan for the 2022-23 healthcare year. The vendor payroll change that we've been in the midst of has been a good experience from a process in processing payroll. We've still got lots of kinks to work at yet with time and attendance.
It's a fantastic job. When Roger called me and told me that they had done it, I walked up and down the street inspecting it, and I'm happy to say that the job was very well done. So I appreciate your efforts and administration on working on that, taking care of it. The residents are very grateful.
And I do want to mention that the country club was we have a relationship now, they're communicating with people in Pleasant Ridge also. So we're building something, talking to your neighbor now in terms of working together to solve the problem we understand. So
I thought you were going to be doing that.
This doesn't go away.
I apologize for the commotion here. For anyone watching, I had requested that we have this dry erase board here because we're going to be talking about some adjustments in our fence codes. And I figured it would be helpful to be able to draw a picture of what we're talking about because it can be hard to visualize. So, Mr. Donald.
So first, let's put it on the table for discussion, which is ordinance 2022-4, and I have a motion to read by title only.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And this is an ordinance amending the planning and zoning code, and I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
All those.
For discussion, we'll go right to the next one. Next. All right.
So,
Illustrated.
So, first of all, we need one that writes.
thank you for helping set that up. Sure.
Yeah, I really did want the Irish, but I'll go with the blue. Xavier.
Kentucky.
Scotland.
So, the new zoning code that's being proposed, if this is a golf Manor residence, this is what we consider the rear yard. So street out here, front door there. The code says you can now have a 6-foot high fence on the sides and the back, across the back, and all the way up to the building line. The code now requires also, if this is visible facing the street, it can be 6 feet, but 1/4 of it must be an open fence top. There's a variety of fence tops available online. Most of the Lowe's, Home Depot, they all sell Mills. They all sell those that go right on top of the fence, usually about 18 inches, which is why we said 25%. So if you wanted to, without getting a variance, you could go to 6 feet across your backyard entirely. As it comes here on the forward part, you can go to 6 feet as long as the top 25% is decorative top. If you don't want to put a decorative top on, it has to be 4 feet, which is the current code. What the code also provides, many of our houses have this, where they come across and they connect to the back of the house. Some houses have a side door, and they want the fence to come up here so they can let their dogs, their children, whatever, right out the side door and into the enclosed backyard. In that case, not only would this have to be 4 foot or decorative, so would this side. Because if this is where the neighbor's house is, this would be past the neighbor's rear building line, and we'd want this to be 4 feet or decorative also, so that they have an open aesthetic look as it comes into that side yard. That's what the code would require, and no variance would then be required to be strictly administrative approval of the fence application.
And noting that if you have already an existing existing fencing without this decorative, that's your grandfather.
Yeah, existing fences are grandfathered. The only time that if you wanted to replace the fence, you'd have to bring it up to code compliance or substantially replace the fence if there was damage, storm damage, deterioration, you'd have to bring it into compliance. If we had a storm damage situation, probably that person, if they wanted to rebuild the same fence, would come and request a variance. The planning commission would listen to that as a justification for allowing that variance.
When you put up like the stockade style fence, is there a requirement? I think there's a requirement in here on which side faces which neighbor.
Yeah, like many communities, the finished side has to face out away from your yard, has to face the neighbors.
And that's already in the.
That's already in the
Yeah.
code.
And the 4-foot fence that is halfway up the house, is that limited to the front of the house? Is there anywhere there you can put it?
The 4-foot fence would be required as it comes here because it faces the street. Or if you wanted to come past your rear building line, this would have to be 4 foot if this is past the rear building line of your neighbor's home. If your neighbor's home sat forward here, it would not be past their rear building line.
What I was referring to is whether that 4-foot fence that's horizontal there can't be farther forward than the front of the house. face
Right, when
line?
you get up
Yeah.
here, you're now in the side yard, nothing is permitted in the front yard,
Okay,
no
there's
fences.
a limit. That- so
Right,
go
no
to the
fences
front of the
are permitted
house,
in the front yard.
and that's where it stops. Okay.
Okay, so kind of back to what you're actually talking, so if the back of the neighbor's house is forward of the back of your house, then you can do a 6-foot there.
Yes,
Now, what if your neighbor on the other side is 3 feet behind the corner of your house?
we just have the same measurements. So it's where their building line is and where your building line is on either side. When you want to come forward from their rear building line, you have to have a 4-foot high fence or decorative top fence.
Right, but what if your neighbor's rear wall is behind your rear wall?
You could come all the way up into your rear wall.
Okay. Gotcha.
Any further questions or discussion? All right,
Then roll call.
roll call.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Mr. Knapp,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
All right, very good.
Yep, I've noted in the legislative memo, you have the option of waiving the second and third readings. This will take effect in 30 days, or we can put it on the agenda for second reading August 18th.
Motion to waive the second and third readings.
Second.
And then we need a roll call vote.
Roll call, please.
1 second. Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
So that will take effect in 30 days, so mid-August, that'll be our new fence code. The second piece is
Gary,
ordinance.
just a clarification, that's 2022-4.
Correct, 2022-4. Yes.
Thank you.
I think I said 5, it is 4. Nope, it is 4. It's listed on the agenda as 4. The next is ordinance 2022-5. May I have a motion to read that by title only?
Motion to read by title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And this is an ordinance amending the schedule of compensation for village employees. We need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I think we've discussed this both in the finance committee meeting before council and then with Mr. Hurst's report. It's adjusting our schedule of compensation, particularly for new hires. Any more questions or comments on that?
There's if anyone wants to see what the previous one is compared to this, I have a hard copy of that. It can be found online for anyone that's watching as well.
And a roll call vote.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
Similarly, can I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading so this will take effect then in mid-August?
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-5 passes.
Next is ordinance 2022-6. And may I have a motion to read this by title only?
Second.
It's in the minutes. It's
All those in favor?
Seconded by Eeyore.
All those in favor?
Aye.
See when you do.
Sorry, who was first and second on that?
Betcher was first, Fisher was second.
Thank you.
Tim Cledis.
It was the eastern block versus the west
Like,
block.
It's that was -6.
Correct.
Yeah, 2022-6.
That was a resolution?
No, ordinance
Ordinance.
2022-6.
That's in. you're wrong. Wait a second. It's not.
Yeah, the memo has the compensation schedule is 2022-6.
Your columns moved.
Yeah, the agenda has them listed correctly.
Okay. So, I don't want to mess up here.
So let's see, go back. Ordinances from first. So there's 6 right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then
In the back.
go down.
Yeah, the packet we had them off.
There's 5. There's
Well, is this for corporations?
Okay. I'll copy
Yes.
and paste. It's fine. I figured.
Yeah, there was a supplement.
Yeah, just get your motions later.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that was Mr. Betcher and Mr. Fisher. Perfect. We're good.
And this is an ordinance to amend appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Gulf Manor for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2022. We need a motion to approve.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Roll call?
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
And similarly, we need a motion to waive the second and third reading so the appropriations can be adjusted.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Sorry. Okay, Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-6 passes.
The next item is Resolution 2022-24. May I have a motion to read this by title only?
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This is the resolution adopting a tax budget for 2023. We need a motion and a second.
Motion?
Second.
And this is the tax budget. We had the hearing earlier tonight. This is the statutory requirement that we pass our tax budget. We submit it to the Hamilton County Auditor, the Budget Commission. They review it to make sure that we have a balanced budget. They will then send back approval, and then it moves to appropriations at the end of the year. So we need a roll call vote.
Any questions or anything before that? No? Roll call, please.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
Resolution 2022-24 passes.
Thank you. Resolution 2022-25. May I have a motion to read this by title only?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And this is a resolution approving a contract with United Healthcare to provide health insurance coverage for village employees through the Center for Local Government Benefits Pool. We need a motion to approve and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All right, roll call.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
Resolution 2022-25 passes.
Last item for legislation tonight. May I have a motion to read this by title only? Resolution 2022-26.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And this is a resolution confirming the appointment of Eric M. Pridnoff as Village Fiscal Officer. We need a motion to approve and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Okay.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
Resolution 2022-26 passes,
Interlude.
and I thank you.
That's it. It's gonna be a new license plate.
I think you have anything else on there?
2022-26.
So you want to do the swearing right now?
When were you, I was planning on
Nah,
it.
you're
Wait,
good.
No, go right ahead and then I'll finish up.
what else did you have?
The Tax Board of Appeals and a request for executive session.
Okay. If you're up for it, I'd like to just go ahead and do the swearing in now, and then we'll move on with the rest of it. All right, so you raise your right hand and repeat after, and space this folks. And repeat after me. I, Eric Pridnoff,
I, Eric Pridnoff,
do affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
that I will uphold
the
the
Constitution and laws,
Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and laws of the Village of Gulf Manor,
and the Charter and laws of the Village of Gulf Manor,
and will
Faithfully.
faithfully and fairly fulfill the duties
and will faithfully and fairly fulfill the duties
of the job in which, of the office of which I've been appointed.
of the office of which I've been appointed.
Congratulations.
Now you can officially take minutes. The last item under my report, last meeting, I told you we had an appeal to the Board of Tax Appeals, which we need to schedule. Council has the responsibility to appoint 2 members for 2-year terms to that board. And so my understanding is we have 2 applicants who have requested appointment: Sue Cook, longtime resident of Kellerman, and Daniel Bevan, a resident on Bremont. Is that correct, Mr. Betcher?
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Van Horn, and thank Dennis Cheney for helping.
Do we have a motion then to appoint those 2 as council's appointees to the Board of Tax Appeals?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
The third member is filled by the mayor. We will set a hearing, we'll check everybody's calendars, we'll set a hearing up and then have him make the third appointment in
Yes.
time for that hearing, which probably will be sometime in August,
August 1st
August 1st.
at, I think we said at 4:30 PM.
Okay, so you've got exactly 3 weeks.
And I was prepared to make it tonight, but I will wait.
You can just do that in writing and submit it to Mr. Hurth.
Okay, perfect. I will do that.
Quick question, what's the process? One of those gentlemen was my neighbor. So what, and I didn't.
We'll be in touch with him
Tell him
to,
what I knew. So,
we'll be in touch with him to tell him about the hearing date. We'll prepare a packet for each member of the commission. And that packet will include the taxpayer's appeal. It'll include the decision previously of the tax commissioner from which it's being appealed. And then the taxpayer can come in and make their statement. And then we will adjourn the public session of it and privately deliberate and render a decision.
thank you.
What are the names of those two individuals?
Daniel Bevan, Beavan,
I believe it's pronounced that.
Bevan,
That could be.
I
That's
think it's
all I
Bevan.
said.
Beavan, Daniel, and then Sue Cook, Koch.
Great. Reiterate thanks and thanks to them for their service to the residents.
And then I will, at the end of the agenda, make a request for a very brief executive session to discuss matters of imminent and pending litigation. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Is there there's an executive committee met this evening. Mr. Van Horn, do you have a report for the council?
Yes, there wasn't anything pressing to put on the agenda, so we started to move up from our from what's been pending for a while. So we discussed pods and dumpsters and the issues with that we have in the village. And the result of that was we're gonna have a subcommittee of 2 or 3 people meet next week. And we're gonna be giving them our, I guess, a wish list from the executive committee to the planning commission, who will then review it, and then it'll be coming back to executive and then to council. So it's in process now to get an ordinance, and then it'll, of course, go to Terry to kind of put something together after that process, so.
Great.
And then we discussed briefly what's pending with landlord-tenant legislation, and that is still tied up with the state, and Mr. Dowell recommended we just have to wait to table that, so it's still just floating. Oh, yeah, that's right, sorry, that was Ron's report.
Yay.
We are, why don't you do this part, John, Ron?
So there are several solutions to the parking problem across the street that are in process. We're going to be adding 2 handicap spots. I didn't peel this one, but it looks like that. It has a protective coating on it. And then 2 spots down from either of the handicap spots will be parking for municipal building and volunteer park guests only. No parking overnight. Will go across the whole front. Obviously, that if Dave has somebody who needs to park there overnight, he can let us know and we'll deal with it. But hopefully this will help to curtail some of the issues we've had with parking across the street.
Very good.
I'm excited.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. End of report?
Thank you. Any other questions? And if not, I will ask Mr. Betcher for.
For planning commission, we heard the updated fence and driveway code. So no other real reports. Next meeting is Monday, August 1st at 6:30.
Great, thank you. With Ms. Cheney not being here, I will ask Ms. Snyder, but first I want to, a couple items. I want to thank Jacqueline Threadgill and Casey Dressel for this Yoga in the Park. They started on the 3rd of July, and the next dates are the 24th and the 31st of this month, and then August 8th and the 21st. Those are all Sundays, 10 to 10:40 a.m. in Volunteer Park. It's yoga and it's free popsicles.
Amen.
So, yes,
Tasty
Very good.
popsicles
very
too.
good stuff. So wanted to thank them for putting this together and their devotion to keeping it going for the benefit of our residents. And likewise, I want to thank Mr. Bussey for his work. You've probably heard, if you've been on social media at all, about the nail issue of having nails on Langdon Farm. And Mr. Bussey has been exemplar as a resident and his pursuit of figuring out what can be done about that situation. Wanted to have him give us a little bit of an update, which is some good news.
Mind if I just sit at the table?
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like screaming. So an arrest has been made. The police captured the suspect on June 17th. And like if you weren't familiar with the case, essentially there was a person driving down Langdon Farm and riding a road, throwing nails out of their car, out of their vehicle actually. And it was actually a resident on Langdon Farm that witnessed them do it, and it was, they went and essentially tried to chase them, but they saw the cops were already stationed there because the cops were taken it very seriously once they knew a crime was being committed. That's the CPD. And that resident got a hold of the cops, and then they were able to kind of get a photo of the vehicle, and they were looking for that person for a little bit. And eventually it led to that arrest on that Friday, June 17th. There is a pre-trial in early August. I can't remember the exact date, but I'll plan to attend. That's downtown here in Cincinnati. So I will update you guys with any things on that, what I learned from that. I don't think much will come of it. I mean, pre-trial, it's not like the actual trial and stuff, but I'll learn something. And I mean, maybe we'll learn motives. I think everyone's curious about that. That's usually the question I get, and I don't know the answer. I think that they're just a terrible person, maybe, but I don't know. It's a terrible crime that affects everyone. It affected so many people I've met along the way. I mean, probably thousands of people, truthfully, that were affected by it.
Well, and a lot less actually because of Mr. Bussey's efforts.
Yeah.
He put together a magnet and would sweep the street and get the nails that were out on the street picked up, and he had a regular commitment to that, which is just fantastic. So on
I got myself probably 9,000 nails off the street.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a lot of hours.
On behalf of council, on behalf of myself and council and the residents of Gulf Manor, your fellow
Have my
residents,
brand new
thank you.
tires, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be installing roofs, is that correct?
I gave them to the police. That's evidence. Maybe they'll give it back to me. They didn't want any more. I asked them if I should get more from people. They said they have enough. That's funny.
Awesome. Thank you again. Ms. Snyder, do you have any other announcements with regard to community engagement?
So community engagement did not meet last month. However, Ms. Cheney wanted me to share some exciting news with everyone. If you haven't heard this yet, that DOTE has decided to install a pedestrian-only phase, aka the pedestrian scramble, in front of PRM. And in addition, there will be no right turns on red for vehicles and school zone advanced warning signage on Montgomery and Leicester. And these should be installed by the beginning of the next school year. And
It's fantastic news, and it is everything that was asked for.
yes, it
So
was.
this is really great news that they took that seriously and did it,
Mhm.
or promised to have it done by the beginning of the school year.
And
I want to know what a pedestrian scramble is because it sounds like breakfast.
it
Yes.
does. I believe it's when all the lights are red at
Kind of
once,
looks like that.
and people get to walk on all sides.
Right, and
All
there's no
crosswalks.
right turns or anything like that. It's just, everything, all traffic free. It's supposed to freeze, and then people can go across the intersection.
Essentially, walk diagonal.
Right. So instead of having like I'm gonna use,
But it's kind of like an intersection in New York City,
Right.
day in and day out.
In Manhattan. You look so ornamented.
All right, so if you have a street like this, and you have one like this, and currently there's like, okay, there's a walkway there, there's a walkway there, there's a walkway there, right? And you have traffic light there. Instead of doing it that way, basically you just say this whole thing is a walkway, all right? So when the traffic is all stopped there, people can go like that and go, however. There it is.
Still have some
Perfect.
challenges with the no red on red enforcement.
Right. I believe they'll still have, they currently have an officer that's assigned during that time. So hopefully they can help with that, right?
And like I said, we did not meet. However, some progress is being made with the formation of a park committee or beginning stages of that. And also I will be reaching out to Liz Bloom to ask her how the housing study is going. So hopefully we will know by our next meeting.
Great.
And I am unsure if there is a nonprofit report. However, I do believe Little Golf Manor does have some news
Yeah,
that maybe can come straight from the source.
the last detail kind of came to get today, that's why it hasn't been announced. We're gonna have another food truck Friday and it's scheduled for July 29. And
Nice.
just like before, Amy's.
A little louder.
Yeah,
I got
Amy's jumping in.
I got new sound
It's like
equipment because I blew my
4th of July.
speaker out on July 4th
Oh,
and
no.
July 7th. So, yeah, it'll be real nice.
So is Jacqueline doing your artwork for that?
I didn't want to send it until I had some of the details worked out, which I finally got. a phone call
So
today,
we're happy to put that on the marquee and on the
Okay.
webpage, just
I'll send
have
it
her
to you
send it to
tonight.
me.
I just found out at 4:30 today that it was ready to go. And then we are planning, but it's not confirmed yet, for August 19th, I think, to have another one. So you'll start hearing about it tomorrow.
Right. Great. Thank you to the members of Go Golf Manor. That's fantastic. Anything else, Ms. Snyder?
Just that our next committee meeting is Tuesday, July 19th at 9:30 a.m.
Right. And Mr. Betcher, did you include your Finance Committee report in your Planning Commission or no?
I didn't, but I believe most of council was here for the finance committee meeting, so I won't bore them with a rehash of what they already witnessed.
Thank you.
Very good. Then I will reiterate the announcements about the upcoming meetings, and then we can just go into executive session and not have to have people wait around basically for closing here. So the next council meetings, if what I'm reading is correct, is Monday, August 15th, Executive Committee at 5:30, Finance Committee at 6:30, Council at 7:30, or immediately after the conclusion of the Finance Committee. And also Monday, September 12th, Executive Committee at 6 p.m., Council at 7 p.m., or immediately after the conclusion of the Executive Committee meeting. There's a meeting as well of the community engagement, which is, remind me again.
Tuesday, July 19th at 9:30.
Very good. And with that all said, if you're watching us, we're going to go dark here for an executive session, presuming that our roll call calls for that. So with that,
Can I make a real quick comment on the calendar? Mr. Pridnoff and I went through the calendar, the scheduled meetings for the rest of the month. Please make sure that everybody looks at this, because this is announcing our next meetings, and if we've missed a holiday or something, let us know as soon as possible. I think we've hit everything correctly, but appreciate your help with that.
all right. Do we have a motion to go to executive session?
And it would be
matters
for
of-
imminent and pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Who was the motion by? Sorry.
Mr.
Mr. Van Horn and second by Mr. Betcher.
Yes.
Roll call. Mr. Betcher?
Yes.
Mr. Knipp?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn?
Yes.
Right. And for clarity, we're going to close up the doors and Mr. Bussey, yes.
You getting the boot? One person.